Our speaker today is insurance efficiency expert Jennifer Schultz. She has over 20 years experience working in the dental industry and is the founder of Dental Insurance Navigator and Virtual Dental Office. Jennifer understands the volume of work that accompanies insurance and how it has progressively increased over the last 10 to 20 years. She enjoys assisting team members in taking control of insurance and getting their time back. Please welcome Jennifer Schultz.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you all for joining us tonight. So we're going to go ahead and get started. The mistakes that I'll be sharing this evening are mistakes that I have seen not once or twice, but over and over again in my years in dentistry. And they will easily save you thousands of dollars. It is not uncommon for me to find mistakes that are tens of thousands of dollars. The first mistake is not being ready for patient questions. When your patients come to your practice, they have an expectation that you will understand their policy, like it or not. And so if that is not your policy in your practice, then it's up to you to change their expectation. Because we know that we have conflict when someone's experience does not meet their expectation. Now, we can change a patient's expectation simply by how we speak to them, our marketing, what your materials say. So if you're not prepared or not planning on getting benefit information for your patients, just be sure to let them know that that's their responsibility. But for the most part, I believe that patients have a general understanding that you will know about their plan. Patients don't necessarily understand how many different plans there are or the work that's involved in getting that information. They just expect that you'll have it. So make sure that you are prepared to answer your patient's questions. Questions such as, does my insurance cover that? Or, I only want what my insurance covers. Patients don't really understand how dental insurance works. And really how it works is the employer has a certain dollar amount, maybe $20 per employee, and they're now looking to purchase dental insurance. So they go to the different carriers and they select a carrier based on the budget that they have for their employees. So when a patient's in your practice and they say, oh, I only want that if my insurance covers that, they really don't understand that the insurance is not necessarily meant to cover everything that they need. And so it's very important to educate them on what it is that they need, but also how dental insurance works and how it's meant to supplement or often discount the procedures that are in the practice. We also know that it is very important to schedule your patient when they're in the practice. Alex mentioned the amount of paperwork that the changes in insurance have created for dental practices, and that just seems to be increasing with credentialing and the narratives, etc. And so one thing that's very important when we think about front office team members and all of the things that they have to juggle between patients coming in, checking out, team members coming up, asking where their patient is, the phone ringing, and getting insurance information. We know that it is best to schedule that patient when they're in the practice. So what do you need to actually get that patient scheduled when they're in your practice? Often you do need to have a rundown of their benefits when you're presenting treatment. Again, not always. It simply depends on your practice and the expectation that you create for your patient. However, if you're hearing in your practice, well, what will my insurance cover, or can you send a pre-authorization for that, then it may be time to think about getting that information before the patient comes into your practice so that you're not chasing them after. We also know that once a patient leaves your practice, life happens. They often forget the necessity or the intraoral camera pictures that you've shown them in the practice to talk about and show them why this dentistry is needed. They might go home and their husband is talking about a nice vacation they want to go on, and then when you call them with a breakdown of their benefits, they've already put down a down payment on the vacation or whatever it might be. So scheduling those patients when they're in your practice is very important, and being prepared is the key to that. Another mistake that I often see is practices not fully utilizing their software. There is a reason why we use practice management software. It can do a lot for you, and so utilizing it to its fullest capacity is very important. Something that often happens is when team members are at the front desk or working at the front desk and you have your software training, there's so much information that is reviewed in a short amount of time, and we simply cannot retain it all. Years ago, I was a software trainer, so I understand. And sometimes we do a full day of training, or the minimum was 4 hours. And I could often tell 2-3 hours into it that team members were starting to get a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of information that they were receiving. So it's very important to leverage your software and get additional training as needed. So your software is designed to track your insurance benefits. Something that many offices will do is they'll get a fax back and they might put it in a paper chart, and or maybe they scan it and put it into the document center. Well, the document center is good for that patient because you have that breakdown. However, if we really think about how the practice management software can be used, ideally you're using that to leverage among all of your patients. So here's an example of that. If you have a patient and they have John Deere insurance, they're an employee of John Deere, and John Deere has Blue Cross Blue Shield. And let's say that John Deere is an employer in your area, and you have 25 patients with this same John Deere insurance. We'll just call it group plan number 1. So you enter in the patient, or excuse me, the insurance, Blue Cross Blue Shield group number 1 for this patient, and their family members come in and you attach that. Well, let's say a couple weeks later, maybe someone else is checking in a new patient. They too have John Deere group number 1, and they go into the practice management software, and maybe they don't search by John Deere, or maybe they don't search by group plan 1. Maybe they just start entering it as a new plan. Or maybe they start searching by Blue Cross, and initially it was entered BCBS. It will not come up. So it's very important that your team is on the same page with any acronyms that are used with the insurance company. It's also very important to know how to search for that plan in your practice management software. You can often search by employer, or you can often search by group number. That's what I recommend, actually, over the name of the insurance company. It's going to reduce your results and make it a much faster search. So if we were to then attach the other 25 patients with the John Deere insurance to that same plan, what your software is going to do for you is track when John Deere pays, or Blue Cross Blue Shield pays on any procedure, and it's going to remember that for your treatment plans. Now, if we're putting the fax back into the document center, that's not going to happen like it would if that information was actually entered into the coverage table in the software. So utilizing that is very, very helpful in giving accurate insurance estimates. I cannot tell you how often this is, it's actually a cleanup project in practices, that this information is not accurate. However, I can tell you a great way to take care of this. I think many practices become overwhelmed at, wow, it's such a mess, it would just take hours or days, months to straighten it out, and honestly, it probably would. However, here's a nice way to make that happen. If you are getting new benefits for group plan number 1, John Deere, what if you put an asterisk behind the group number, or put the employer name in all caps, or some sort of symbol or way that you're entering in the information so that you know that is a plan that was updated most recently. Ideally, you're putting that date somewhere else in the software so you know exactly when that update came from. But if you were to do that, then when additional patients come in, or you're checking for other patients with that same insurance, you will know in the search field which plan to use. Then after a certain period of time, whether it be 6 months or a year, ideally, all the patients are off of the variety of John Deere Group Plan 1, and they're all on the John Deere Group Plan 1 that's in all caps or with the asterisk. So that's a really great way to, over time, complete the cleanup project without lots of hours and time up front.